Hello and welcome to the Art of Costume Podcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I am a man seeking eternal life, Spencer Williams.
Hello, Spencer. You sure about that?
I'm not sure. I've been catching up on all of our spooky season episodes, and maybe eternal life isn't all that's cracked up to be. I know.
Okay, so this is my thing. Like with Vampire Month, Sexy Vampire Month,
Sexy,
as our spooky,
glamorous, hot vampire month.
As our spooky season theme, I've been reflecting a lot because, you know, sexy vampires was totally a thing when we were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I would totally have to be a, like, Vampire Diaries vampire. I can't give up food. You tell me I have to walk this earth for eternity, but I can't have a cheeseburger? Like, no thank you.
That's true. I don't know, but I mean, there's so many different types. I mean, today we're talking about, well, I should say today we're talking about the Lost Boys. You have like cool punk riding motorcycle vampires, and then in our upcoming episodes, they could eat. Yeah, the Lost Boys vampires have a good time.
Yeah,
and then
they were dicks though.
Yeah, well, Interview with the Vampire, they're, hot, and they got to live through history. And then we have our other two films, which I'll save those for later. But yeah, today we're talking about the Lost Boys. I am so excited to talk about this film. It's a good one. It's wild. Honestly, all 4 of our episodes this month are absolutely batshit insane.
They're off the wall, every single one of them.
And the Lost Boys definitely is definitely that.
I watched it for the first time this week, and I was just like, okay, what?
Well, I was very excited about it because I feel like, as two people that talk about costume design all the time, I feel like we've referenced the Lost Boys, or at least costume designers have referenced the Lost Boys many, many times, because it really is like a cultural touch point in terms of that 80s punk, rock, goth, style. So I'm very excited to get into it. Of course, in our annual spooky season tradition, I have been sick for the past 2 weeks, so I have my cool, deep voice. I don't know if you noticed. You always
start off sick.
Every spooky season, it's like my thing.
I think it's because like do your allergies start to like set in, the fall allergies, and they just like take you out for a week or two beforehand?
I mean, at this point, ask the costume nerds. They probably know better than I do tracking my allergies, because I swear I saw Daniel last night, who happens to be in town, and I was like, yeah, here I am again. Been feeling under the weather right before we record all of our spooky season episodes, but nonetheless, I'm feeling better. I just sound cool and rugged, so I'm excited to get to the Lost Boys. So let's get into it. And before I give a summary, Elizabeth and I are talking behind the scenes, and we feel like, to give some more context to all of our episodes, it might be important to kind of dive deeper into our directors as well as the costume designers, because it's a much needed context when we talk about some of these films like The Lost Boys, or some of our other vampire films and TV series we'll be getting into this month. So The Lost Boys was directed by one Joel Schumacher, which we have mentioned before on this podcast. Of course, he's known for his notable work on St. Elmo's Fire, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin, which I will just say now, I would like to do a Batman and Robin episode in the next season. It is way too much fun. Come on. Elizabeth sent me a TV show the other day and said, we're doing this next season. So I'm just saying, I would like to have one.
I know.
And also Joel Schumacher directed The Phantom of the Opera, for which we have an episode for.
Yes.
So good fun. Now let's get into the summary. I'll get back to Joel Schumacher in a little bit. When a recently divorced mother and her 2 teenage boys move to a coastal town to stay with her father, it doesn't take long for the brothers to realize the area is a haven for something much more sinister than party-going surfers. And that is the Lost Boys. Spoiler, it's party-going vampires.
Really. Yeah, it's party-going vampires. And let's meet our costume designer, Susan Becker. You will know her work from St. Elmo's Fire, Days of Thunder, Flatliners, Father of the Bride, and True Romance.
Mm-hmm. St. Elmo's Fire being, one of Joel Schumacher's films. And as I mentioned earlier, we've talked about Joel Schumacher on the podcast before, actually going all the way back to one of the very first episodes of the Art of Costume podcast, back then called the Art of Costume blogcast. Ha ha. As you'll remember that Joel Schumacher was actually a costume designer / fashion designer who worked with one Roy Halston. So we talked about him quite a little bit on our Halston episodes. I think it's like episode 3 of our podcast.
So early, because I think that was that also the first interview?
Very first interview with Jeriana San Juan, the costume designer. So, I think we need a little context about the director. Like I said, Joel Schumacher came from the world of fashion and costume design. I think this is important to understanding The Lost Boys because, of course, as you can all imagine, there's not a ton of behind the costume facts about The Lost Boys because it just wasn't really documented. There's some.
From the 80s.
Yeah, but not a lot. Joel Schumacher studied first at the Fashion Institute of Technology and later graduated from Parsons School of Design in 1965. In the early 70s, he's working in Hollywood as a costume designer, creating wardrobes for films like Play It As It Lays, The Last of Sheila, where he dressed stars like Diane Cannon, Joan Hackett, and Raquel Welch, Woody Allen's film Sleeper, and Paul Mazursky's Bloom in Love.
Oh, man.
Schumacher also worked on theater projects designed for productions like The Time of the Cuckoo, The Prisoner of Second Avenue, and Interiors. And like I said, around that time, he also collaborated briefly with Halston. So I think that's really important as we get into The Lost Boys because while we don't have too many costume facts from Susan Becker or Joel Schumacher, what is very evident to me as you watch the film is that Joel Schumacher really approached this film with an eye. I mean, he really brought his inspirations, his love for fashion, his love for rock and roll and punk and being rebellious and anti-establishment. All of that really comes to a head in The Lost Boys. So while he was not the costume designer of this film, you know damn well that he had something to say about how this world of it's not Santa Cruz. What is it called? Santa something. It's this world. He really is, he has his touch on it. As I'll say.
I almost said Santa Barbara. I was like, no, that's absolutely incorrect.
But I will remember as we take this little break, and I will go head to the interwebs and let you know on the other side of this break, and we will talk about the costumes of the Lost Boys.
Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, go to tpublic.com/user/theartofcostume, where you can buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show. Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, head over to theartofcostume.com/podstore, where you could buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show.
Spencer, are you ready to head to Santa Carla? To just the most beautiful beachside town you've ever seen?
Look, nothing good ever happens in Santa Cruz adjacent fictional, beaches like this. Santa Carla is definitely not a place you want to be hanging out. I think they even say there's a pretty high murder rate, right?
Yeah, it's they say it's like the number one murder. It's like the number one murder capital of the world or something.
Yeah, something like that. But as we get started, I just want to start with the opening scene on the carousel, and of course, seeing the people of this fictional town to the song "People Are Strange," a cover of the Doors song. It's incredible because you automatically, you know what this film's basically about. And just looking at the people and understand where they are and what kind of town this is, just based from looking at the costumes, honestly.
Yeah, they really set up the scene. It's like, okay, this is not the best place. It's, and like mostly I think it's the vampires not making it a good place. And I just think it's so funny that their mom's like, this is going to be great. Our new lives where I grew up.
The sweetest lady ever is like, yeah, this is going to be great. And you're
yeah.
Yeah.
No, when he says like, oh, my parents were ex-hippies, I was like, oh, that tracks. Okay, just half of my torso is just not going to be seen in this episode.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's okay. We're still not back in the set yet. We're having some lighting issues. So for some of our episodes, you'll see us there, and some of us you won't. And I guess some of our episodes you'll see Elizabeth, and sometimes you won't. She's just a floating head this episode. Very spooky.
Yeah, in theme. But what I think I love most about this opening scene is just seeing like almost every fashion trend of the 80s. You got like your punk rock, 90s grunge is about to hit it. And you see like all these different, especially like, alternative style people interspersed with just the most 80s vacation, like the visors and like the little swimsuits, and I'm like all the vacationing tourists amongst what are honestly like a lot of cool looking people.
Yeah, no, it's a great place. I wrote down that the fashion choices emphasize the rebellious anti-establishment look that was distinct from typical 80s styles, blended with like 80s mall culture with like the punk and goth styles. So it's kind of interesting to see, and we'll talk about this with one of our main characters later, but it's like you see like the people that are kind of afflicted by this town, and which is why the vampires blend in so well. And you see the people there that obviously are like tourists, the very colorful people, the people that are there, they're at Santa, they love this beach town and they're very happy, and just kind of the anti-establishment rebellious look just kind of feeds off of it and slowly pulls them into the dark crevices of this town. Yeah, it's very exciting. I also just want to mention just that song being a cover of, from The Doors. Jim Morrison is really like a recurring theme in The Doors in this film.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about, obviously, why we're all here. Our Lost Boys, which, the vampires, of course, who we love. I found this very interesting. So The Lost Boys was inspired by the concept of J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan and its titular Lost Boys, which of course are the interesting characters in the cartoon or a bunch of children. I'm not a Peter Pan fan. I've been pretty clear about that throughout my life. So I find Peter Pan to be cringy in every way. So actually The Lost Boys is my favorite iteration of this story in ways.
I mean, I think it's the logical conclusion.
Yeah.
If the Lost Boys ever leave Neverland and grow up.
Yeah. So essentially, so the film transforms this idea into a darker teen vampire narrative where the Lost Boys remain eternally young and rebellious, mirroring the desire to avoid the pains of growing up. The film's co-writer James Jeremias was struck by Anne Rice's novel Interview with the Vampire as well, and this idea of eternal childhood, which could be another theme for the rest of our month as well.
Oh, yeah.
Anne Rice, honestly. So combine these two together, this idea from Peter Pan and Interview with the Vampire, we have The Child, The Lost Boys, with the film by Joel Schumacher. Yeah, it's a fascinating way to look at it because originally they approached Joel Schumacher with this like childlike story, and he got a hold of it and he was like, well, that's not exactly
Have
how
you read
I see
Interview with the Vampire?
Yeah. So with that, we have a quote from costume designer Susan Becker from the website Defunct. She said, "My view of this film and the story from the very start was that these kids were like homeless kids, banded together like creating their own family, but no one was taking care of them, etc., etc. Lost boys living in a coastal town, almost like." So it really is a simple concept. These are people from different places, different parts of the world coming together and creating their own family, which is very similar to Interview with the Vampire, Peter Pan, The Lost Boys. And that is essentially the idea of the Lost Boys. So, which is why, that being said, each of these characters really do kind of have like their own personality in their clothing, which we'll come to find out.
The title, I was like, okay, Peter Pan, Lost Boys, all right. And watching it, you're like, okay, especially towards the end. But to know that it was directly inspired by Peter Pan, that's wild.
Yeah, I actually didn't put it together until I was doing research for this episode. I was like, oh yeah, that is what they're called. So let's talk about our vampires. Obviously a very different type of vampire that we're used to seeing, especially at this point in 1987. You know, on this podcast, we've talked constantly about like Bram Stoker's Dracula and this, centuries old vampire, and long robes, trailing castles and candelabras.
Just our gothic fantasies.
Yeah, our gothic fantasies, Crimson Peak. I mean, we could go on and on about like trains and whatnot. These vampires are essentially supposed to be the young and sexy, teen vampire. They're
so cool.
We don't even know how old they are. They might not be centuries old at all. They're just cool, Santa Cruz kids that are now vampires. And I think that really helps, the costumes really help cement that, especially inspired by all these punk rock style icons and rock roll icons like Jim Morrison. So I figured we kind of go through each of these vampires and look at their costumes. And there was according to Prop Store, I believe, actually quite a few of these costumes were sold a couple of years ago.
Oh.
I don't remember how much, but it was quite a bit, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
We have these brilliant images, which if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll get to see close-ups of some of the garments. Each of the vampires' main principal costumes that we see. So
their jackets.
Their jackets, which are basically their own characters in this film.
Yeah. And I love Dwayne's like Jaguar jacket.
Yeah, it's so cool. Billy Wirth, who plays Dwayne, he has the long black hair and his leather jacket. It's nothing in terms of construction. It's just like a aged well leather jacket. Kind of reminds me of like the Indiana Jones one we were just talking about in our previous episode. But it has this painted on or airbrushed Jaguar all down the right arm.
I think it's airbrushed and it looks like an inlay at certain parts. You can see like on the sleeve, you can kind of see the jagged edge of the leather where it's been cut. And I think that's just so cool and clever and just like a great detail you can only see when you're paying attention.
Yeah. And actually looking closer at too, looking at his necklace and his earrings where it looks like teeth of some kind, he does kind of have like a beast like feel to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks very wild, very kind of I don't want to say caveman, but like I mean, like it's like a 1980s caveman look, honestly.
Yeah. I think he was watching George of the Jungle a lot, maybe.
That checks out, honestly. But probably one of the most wild jackets we've ever seen on this podcast happens to be on Marco, played by Alex Winter.
I want this.
This jacket
I want
is
this jacket.
Wild.
I love this jacket.
It's insane. For those who are just listening, we're talking about the one that has just all sorts of art, patches, things hanging off of it, frayed edges. I think it's actually I think it's a denim jacket underneath.
It's absolutely a denim jacket. You can see how it frays at the bottom. He's kind of like covered. Well, you can actually get them that way where like the buttons are covered on the jacket, but you can see it in this picture, like the buttonhole. But yeah, it's just like, it's a denim jacket that he's just put appliques and like painted on and just put like all this stuff over, and it's so cool. And like, he was my favorite looking of the vampires, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I had like the most random intrusive thought when I was watching this though. I was like, oh my gosh, if they had made Twilight in the 80s, this man would be Jasper.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he's just so cool looking. I don't think he ever says anything, but he was my favorite.
Yeah, it's true. I don't really remember his roles, except just every time I saw him, I was just kind of struck by his jacket. I also like it because it kind of reminds me, this is a coastal town. It reminds me of like art you would see kind of lining beaches, honestly. If you were to go to like a pier or a farmer's market. Like just the style of like, it almost looks like Princess Leia on his back. I don't know who this woman actually is supposed to be, but just the art style to me just feels almost kind of like, the coastal,
multimedia. Yeah.
A little graffiti almost, maybe. I don't know. It's a work of art. It's wild. I don't know how you would explain this jacket to anyone. Like,
if I ever had the money and this came back on the market, I don't care how much it is. Like, I'm buying it.
The fringe on the top left, you know what? It reminded me of Harley Quinn's jacket from Birds of Prey. Like, it's that wild.
I love it. I also almost saw it as like one of those little like military like epaulets, because he's kind of like the right hand man, even though he's taken out first. But
it happens.
It was
great. That's how it goes. Yeah.
True. They knew which one to go for first.
I think my favorite vampire, if I were to be any of them, I think I would want to be Paul, played by Brooke McCarter.
I can see that.
Yeah, he's a little bit more subtle. We have this cool, like black trench coat.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me a little bit like a war coat, a little bit.
A little bit. It's very, very early British punk. I feel like, the first two we talked about, they're very American punk. This is very early British punk. Almost like
true.
Cruella.
With the bobby pins on the left side. I don't know what happened to the aging of the lapel in this photo. It didn't look like that to me in the actual film.
Yeah.
But I love that metal piece, though, that's bobby pinned on the right side as well. It also, to me, like you said about our last vampire, it does kind of give like a military feel as well a little bit, too. Like they're kind of giving rank to each other as their little vampire cult, which is quite sweet.
It almost looks like, because I'm looking at the picture, and it almost looks like there was like a zipper or something on this tan side that has, or a chain that has since disappeared.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure these, they've been auctioned off now, but before, I have a feeling these costumes weren't exactly taken care of all the time.
I would not be shocked if they were not.
Yeah, but then we have
Sutherland.
Our leader, which I also feel like kind of leads into that British punk you were just talking about. We have Kiefer Sutherland, who plays David. What a great character. I mean, he's the guy.
He is the guy. He was like so simple, but like that's totally what made him stand out as the leader compared to the rest of them.
I think it is because he is just so kind of
menacing.
It's not even simple. It is just very minimalist, especially when you're talking about like compared to Marco, who's the opposite of minimalist. David really is the minimalist, and yeah, you're right. It is kind of menacing because he's just black, but his hair does a lot of the talking, if we're being honest.
Yeah. The spike, the bleach blonde mullet. Yeah. Do they all have mullets, or is it just him and Marco?
It's just him and Marco. The others just have like that very typical 80s hairband, long hair.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I was really born in the wrong era because this This would have been me, Elizabeth.
Okay, Spencer.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what I want for myself. How
Okay.
cool.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I could pull off a beach blonde mullet, though.
No, I don't think you can.
You were supposed to disagree with me.
Spencer,
Anyways.
have you seen how pale each of us are?
Oh, okay.
I don't think either of us can pull that off.
So going forward, we'll leave our vampires for a little bit. Let's talk about some of our other main characters, Michael and Sam. I was reading this article by Niall Flynn called How Cult Film The Lost Boys Defined Bad Boy Style. And it kind of came down to one element, which you could kind of see in Michael, which I just absolutely loved, because it really is a touchstone that is very, very relevant nowadays in fashion. It is the one solo dangly earring, which really just spoke bad boy style. And it is referenced in the film as like that one earring really is a moment in transition for Michael as he starts to get into his new vampiric state. Niall Flynn said, it wasn't until the 80s that modern Western society really got a hold of them, being earrings, spearheaded by British musicians such as George Michael, which, you know, Jason Patric's character is named Michael as well. When Michael starts to wear one, which incidentally it represents a watershed moment in his metamorphosis from human to vampire, combined with a quick temper and proclivity for sleeping all day, the earrings symbolize adolescent revolt, much as in The Lost Boys, adolescent revolt symbolizes the social deviation of vampirism. So, I mean, that earring is carrying a lot of water for Jason Patric's character, Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, he does kind of have that like typical 80s, you know, kind of new kid to the town.
Yeah.
But then throw on a leather jacket, some sunglasses, and the dangly earring, whole new guy.
And I think it's so funny because he has like the very... I understand Michael is supposed to be, I was assuming, a high schooler going into his senior year.
Right.
Despite the fact that he looks 28.
Yeah, he kind of does. You could definitely get drinks with Jason Patric at this moment, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. There were times in the film where I was like, wait, is this just like a much older brother who's just like has decided to like stay with his mom and little brother just, you know, as moral support? And then the mom was like, when school gets back in session, things are going to change. And I was like, no, he's supposed to be a high schooler.
He looks great.
You know, people age differently. Oh, he looks so good. He is fine in this movie. I just didn't buy that he was in high school.
Yeah, that's fair.
I digress. He has that very, like, the all-American working man look of the plain white tee, leather jacket, jeans, and boots. And, like, he doesn't really, kind of, like, until he gets that earring, aside from his motorcycle, I'm like, this doesn't strike me as a kid that, like, would be attracted to, you know, being the cool kid. He just seemed to be like, I just want to live my life and ride my motorcycle. Goodbye. Unlike his...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, unlike his brother, who is just, like, on the edge of being, like, a preppy in the 80s.
He really is, like, the ray of sunshine. We're talking about Corey Haim, who plays Sam, one of Corey Haim's many popular roles. Yeah, he is, like... He's the complete opposite of his brother, Michael, or really any of the vampires as well, because he is very colorful, very color blocked. All of his 80s patterns are clashing together. It is fantastic. And it just kind of shows to me, like, he, you know, we talked about at the beginning how the colorful people of this town kind of feel like the fish out of water a little bit compared to the rest of this town that's, you know, gone deep into, you know, adolescent revolt. So to me, it's just like, this is their way of saying, like, he came to this town and he's just feeling kind of like trying to find his place, and he doesn't fit in. He's trying to, but he just loves his comic books and just wants to, you know, he's at a fun coastal town. He's having fun. So He's so funny though in terms of his costumes. Susan Becker went off with these costumes.
No, I know. Well, I was also thinking because like Michael talks about how like, you know, his parents were ex hippies. He's like, oh yeah, my name was almost Moonbeam. And I'm like, that's such a hippie thing to name your child. And it almost feels like Sam is really going in the other direction from his parents with that almost like preppy, like would not be shocked to see him walking around the mall in the 80s.
Oh, totally.
Like,
this is a mall kid, hand down.
He's trying to make him his own personality outside of like not just his parents, but I think also his brother.
For sure. I also just want to, I mentioned this earlier, but I want to come back to this also talking about like just the aesthetic of the town and Joel Schumacher. Joel Schumacher, the director, was a big Jim Morrison fan and was like made a conscious choice to kind of incorporate his style into the film's aesthetics. And it was kind of like a direct influence for a lot of these characters. Just looking at, you know, this black and white photo we have of Jim Morrison. And of course, his photo makes it onto a huge poster in the vampire layer as well,
that you see for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's just there. Which I get it. I have a big Stevie Nicks photo like this in my living room. So.
You do.
So some other characters that are just integral to the heart of the Lost Boys are, of course, the Frog Brothers, which I have come back to these characters so many times in research for a lot of our episodes.
I was so happy because so many like of these movies, it's like, oh, the nerdy kids like know what to do. And like they're like, you know, let's go for it. And then like push comes to shove, like they don't do anything or they run away. I liked that the Frog Brothers were like, yeah, we know what to do. They get to it. Okay, they're scared, but they're still like following through. They're still like, no, we can do this. We know what to do. Yeah. And I was just like, man, who raised these kids?
It's that rare moment where us as nerds are finally, you know, useful and we're in charge of something. We know how to kill vampires because we have 1,000. You and I, if all of a sudden people were like, we're looking for an expert who needs to understand what vampires wear and, you know, how to interact with them, we'd be like, hey, we have multiple podcast episodes and, you know, if we were right,
written articles.
Yeah, that's what's happening to the Frog Brothers. So it's kind of our dream. Actors Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander played the Frog Brothers, Edgar Frog and Alan Frog. And I saw this come up in research a couple times, and then in that documentary, Joel Schumacher kind of said it was true, essentially, was that Corey and Jameson were essentially told to basically binge Sylvester Stallone, you know, Rambo movies, but then also like really take inspiration from Commandos, Military Men, G.I. Joe, because these two Frog Brothers, they're warriors inside and out.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say they must love Rambo because it's written all over like their wardrobe, that the bandana, with
the beret. I feel like Alan Frog kind of looks like Sylvester Stallone in this moment.
A little bit, yeah.
It's really weird. I love it. I obviously love these two actors too. Just like such like 80s icons. And yeah, I've referenced these Frog Brother costumes so many times. If you go back to one of our previous episodes when we had Amy Paris on to talk about the Stranger Things, I mean, how influential the Lost Boys was on films like or series like Stranger Things, of course. Like it to this day, the Lost Boys is referenced. And of course, when they made this film, no one knew that was going to be the case, of course. No. Definition of a cult classic. One other character we have to talk about is, of course, Star. Played by Jamie Gertz, who is absolutely stunning. Beautiful. I understand why Michael falls. He crashes out in like day one of living in this town. Just
seeing her at that concert, which that concert was wild, by the way.
Oh my gosh, the sexy saxophone player on the stage.
And the oiled up man. I was like, that was one of those moments. I was like, I don't know what we're watching, but I'm not hating it.
Yeah, you see Star. She wears the same costume pretty much throughout. She does put on a jacket at some point, which again has a very military feel to it. Or I think we're putting a thread together.
I felt like that was almost her camouflage to be in with, the Lost Boys was that jacket.
Definitely. And you kind of really, she kind of fits in being like the bohemian type in this town. The beads, the shawl, which, I mean, that is an incredible shawl. It's just, she kind of gives like, what I was thinking about as I was driving home earlier. It's like when you go to like these beach towns and you have like all these attractions, Santa Cruz, of course, like you go to like the fortune tellers attraction and you pay like $20. That's kind of what I think of when I think of Star a little bit. Surprisingly, not a lot of information on said costume, which is wild because she's like one of the only 2 women in this film, essentially. But I will say, you could all hit up our friend, Natalie Lucia, who's been on a podcast before. She's done a great cosplay and has reached out to a costume designer to talk about said costume. So she's like a Lost Boys expert. So check out her Instagram. We'll link it below. We have one more character, and I wasn't going to include her, but I decided I will because to me, she just gives such strong Elizabeth energy.
Stop.
I'm talking about Lucy, played by Diane Wiest.
Why are you always right?
This is you.
Yeah, that's me if I was a hippie back in the day.
Yeah. Their mom is so sweet. I love her.
Yeah, she is. And she's like so like casually cool. Like, she's definitely their mom, but I'm like, oh yeah, you were ex-hippie because you were letting these kids do almost whatever they want.
Yeah, she's like, do whatever you want. I'm trying to be dating. She starts dating like very...
The vampire.
Yeah, she starts dating pretty quickly. But coastal kind of mother vibes though. Very comfortable, very plush.
Oh, yeah.
Love her sweaters.
She's
lots
like,
of knits.
She's the coastal grandma before you become a grandma. Like...
Yeah, she's like
she's
in
phase
the
1.
Pokemon evolution.
Yeah.
I love Diane Wiest, and I just, I was this right before or right after Edward Scissorhands. Like she's really just killing it at this moment. So
yeah, good. This whole movie, especially like I loved her relationship with her dad. And like at the end when like everything's revealed and she's just like, what? Like, hold on.
What did we get into?
But the grandpa like drives through his own home because he sees what's happening. And in my head, I'm like, how did this grandpa like know what was going on? Look, and then he walks to the fridge, takes out a cola, and is like, the only thing I don't like about Santa Carla is all the damn vampires. And that's how the movie ends. And like everyone's face is like, you knew there were vampires here and you didn't say shit? Like, is this common knowledge? Why didn't the mom know and warn her children? Like, look, what?
It's a wild town, Santa Carla.
Anyway, that was what I texted you. Was the movie just ended? And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And by the way, for all 4 of our episodes this month, we have had a text exchange for each one saying, wow, that was wild.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of The Lost Boys, which was just so much fun. I had fun. I'm glad we did this. I was a little nervous to do The Lost Boys, but yeah, I think it paid off.
I agree. I really wasn't sure about it, but you were like, no, like it's good. Like Spencer did like all the research. I was like, okay, if you can figure it out, like go for it.
Yeah.
I had such a good time.
It's just really about breaking down the zeitgeist of this movie. And like, there might not be a lot of costume facts, but if you just put it all in context, I think you could read a lot of the stories that are like in between the lines. And that's what we love when we do this podcast. So with that, I think we should give it the old Stitch rating, as we say.
I think this is definitely like a 3.5 stitches for me. Like, it's really holding together visually. Everything was on point. I'll say, like, story-wise, I was a little bit like, what? Huh? Like, we'll talk about a movie I think was maybe too long this month. I think this movie was too short. It was a cool 90 minutes. Like, it went by. If you just need a little fun flick to watch this spooky season, Lost Boys is where it is.
Yeah, and they don't play around either. They get right into the vampiring pretty quickly.
They really do.
That's what I'm saying. He fell in love with Star, Michael did, in like the first 10 minutes. And then the vampires are like, well, that's not cool. So.
It took like 5 seconds. And I really feel this is like one of those, every now and then I'll watch a movie from like the 80s or 90s and I'll be like, I wish someone would go and make like an HBO miniseries of this.
That would be fun. Like, I can see that for the Lost Boys.
Right? Like a really good, a little scandalous HBO miniseries.
But I will say, if they do that, and whichever costume designer ends up doing that, we're sticking to the 80s, though. I want bullets and leather jackets and denim jackets and all that crazy stuff. Don't change it.
Don't make it modern. No.
Yeah. Modern's not cool. I say.
No.
There's nothing cool about modern society right now. So
No. Spencer, what's your stitch rating?
I think I'm gonna go with like a 3.5. I was like at a 3. I don't know. Okay. Like it's a cult classic. It's fun. It's campy. It's also stupid. But like that's the fun of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
the costumes are top notch. I think the production design is great.
Gorgeous.
Like I don't know, 3.5, 3. It's like it's a solid film. There's nothing bad about it.
No.
It's just also not like I didn't look up to see if it won any Oscars either, you know?
No, I think we all know it didn't.
Yeah, so I was like, it's good fun. It's something, I agree. Like, I could just turn this on, listen to the music, drink a glass of whiskey or something, and just watch some good old vampire blood sucking.
Just melt.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect for that. But I think we'll have a little bit more fun playing our favorite game. Are you ready, Elizabeth?
I am.
Let's do it.
The one costume to rule them all.
All right. Well, I thought it was going to be a little bit harder, but I think I decided on my one costume rule them all. I had to go with the very colorful jacket worn by Marco, just because, I mean, it's a work of art. It's chaotic.
Yes.
It is probably one of the most chaotic costumes we've seen on this podcast. And for that, you just have to give it credit because it really took a lot of swings. To some people, it might be some misses. And for that, I love it for that. So it's everything. Literally, it has everything on it.
It really is. It is everything. Marco's whole look is everything. That's why I didn't put an image for my one costume to rule them all, because it is Marco's costume. It is that jacket. I saw when you were first like, oh, Lost Boys. I looked up Lost Boys and I recognized like the cover of like all the vampires like standing in a row.
Yeah.
And then Marco. This like promo shot of him with the red background. I was like, oh, I've seen that before. Yeah,
it's a wild. I could imagine seeing that photo in a textbook somewhere about, I don't know, 1987.
Yeah. If someone told me this was like some like hairband like front man in the 80s, I'd believe you.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And that brings us to the end of The Lost Boys. I'm kind of sad it's over already, but it was a lot of fun. But fortunately for you all, and actually for us too, because I'm also very excited.
Yes.
We're in our spooky season, and like we do every year, we do an episode every week of October. So we got 3 more vampire flicks to get through. And the next one I am dying to talk about.
I'm so excited you finally watched it.
I'm not done yet. I have one more season. Will you tell everyone what we are talking about next week?
Next week, we are watching AMC's incredible, sexy adaptation of Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire. We're going back to one of our favorite stories. An update on our favorite. We did an episode for Interview with a Vampire, the movie from the 90s, a spooky season or two ago, and we're back with the TV series, the modern update.
And I am very excited. I'm loving it. So season 2 was just released on Netflix yesterday. So I'm very excited. I got a whole nother season watched before next week, and it will be done because I love this show. I binged through the first season very quickly. It is good. It is hot. It is sexy, just like our theme says.
Yeah. And like the first, because last night I watched the first episode over again to, get started on slides and whatnot. And I was like, ooh, this is another one. They get right into it.
Mm-hmm. And it's also not afraid to like lean into it too. Like it's pretty gory too. Like the blood and whatnot. I've had to look away a couple times. It's great. We're going to New Orleans for this one. It's gonna be so much fun. We're talking about seasons 1 and 2, by the way. Season 3 is not out quite yet, which gives us an opportunity to just talk about it again in the future, which I'm thrilled about. In the meantime, email us at theartofcostume@gmail.com. Let us know who your favorite vampire was from the Lost Boys. Why was it David? Why was it Marco? Or maybe you were into Sam and Michael and you're anti-vampire. And if that's the case, it's gonna be a long month for you. Follow us on Instagram at The Art of Costume Pod, TikTok at The Art of Costume. And if you have not yet, subscribe to us on YouTube so you can see us and our beautiful backgrounds and our and us showing pictures of said costumes, so you could really just take in the full The Art of Costume podcast experience. And you could see me wear this leather jacket, which is very warm right now.
Oh, I bet. Everybody, we'll see you next week.